Islam is a system that creates balance between the individual and the society. That means balance between individual interests and the interests of the society. Because to have peace and harmony in a society, there has got to be what? A balance between individual interests and social interest. Islam is a religion of peace. Islam is a religion of pure monotheism, because if we were, each of us, to worship a God of our own, let's call the God of our own, if you want to, call that God of your own yourself. So everybody picks out a God of their own. Therefore, each of us would have our own law, our own sense of right and wrong. How could we possibly agree? It could never happen. But if all of us acknowledge that there's one benefactor and one God, one creator, even if some of us were bad and some of us were good, but we all established that there's one creator, we would still have a way to reach what we call arbitration and adjudication, isn't it? There would still be some law. Islam is a system of social equality. That is, there's no inequality between male and female in Islam. Men are men and women are women. Women are not the same as men. They are the same in the sight of God. They have the same sanctity. They have the same rights in the sight of God. But men and women are not the same. They are similar, but they're not the same. Their anatomy is different, even if they want to exchange parts. Still, it provides a psychological problem. When you find a male or female that has had a sex change, they also need a psychological change. It doesn't work. Male and female are similar human beings from the same soul. From the same soul they were created, but they're not the same. They have a different psychology, they have a different anatomy, and they have a different destiny and function in the society. A balanced, natural, normal, healthy family society will admit that and apply that. Although the Supreme Court of the United States and the House of Lords, the House of Commons, whatever they call them in Great Britain, and I don't know what do you call it here, but in the Western civilizations now, they accept that somehow or another a healthy family can be two women that marry, two men that marry, and adopt children. They call that a nuclear family. What does that sound like? Islam says that's unacceptable to God. Abraham, Moses, David, Solomon, John the Baptist, Jesus Christ, all the prophets of God who came from God with a pure message, they said that that is wrong, that is ungodly, that is immoral. Now, I believe them. I don't believe the human beings that ignore them. And the result of those that don't heed the message of those prophets is disease, deformity, imbalance, dysfunction, disparagement, inevitably despair, suicide. That's what happens to those kinds of people. Check their lives out in the long run. It doesn't work. Islam is a system that encourages and promotes knowledge and science. Islam is a system that strikes the balance between individualism and socialism. Islam eliminates religious excess and ritualistic innovation. Islam is a religion which is against religious intolerance and extremism. We cannot say that a person is, we could say a person is a Muslim extremist, a Christian extremist, a Muslim criminal, a Jewish criminal, a Christian criminal. We could say that. But we cannot say that Islam is an extremist religion, because Islam by definition means a law that Almighty God has established for equity between the human beings, which is surrender and submission to His will, and God is not an extremist. And we cannot indict Jesus Christ for what Jim Jones did. We cannot indict Jesus Christ for what Charles Manson did. And he said he was the coming back of Christ. We cannot indict Jesus Christ for what Hitler did. We cannot indict Jesus Christ for what Timothy McVeigh did. Then how can we indict Islam for what perhaps some Muslims do? It's only fair. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. You heard that before. What's good for you has to be good for me. To be equitable, you can't say one thing for Muslims and another thing for Christians. That's not fair. I haven't heard any headlines, although all of the murder, as a matter of fact, I was wondering why 56 Catholic priests, cardinals, bishops that are very close, I mean exceptionally close to the Pope, 56 who are convicted pedophiles and have been pedophiles convicted over a protracted period of time, none of them were called Christian criminals. Yet they were endowed and entrusted with the lives of young children whom they corrupted over a protracted period of time. It wasn't like a few weeks. I mean like 30, 40 years. That's like the fox being in the chicken house for 40 years. And it's not even really being in the chicken house, it's being in the chickadee house. Because they were not even chickens yet. But not one headline said Christian criminals. As a matter of fact, they doctored it up as if they needed some kind of psychological help. It was a little mistake, and we just need to work this thing out a little bit. And now, it's not an indictment against Christianity. It's not an indictment against the Vatican. Those were just some people who were entrusted with religious sanctity. But it's the nature of human beings to fall into traps like that when they fool themselves about something called celibacy. It don't even exist. Don't even try to be celibate. Don't even try to tell me that. There's something you're doing to balance it out. Now, Islam is a real religion. Islam says no celibacy. Whether you want to be a Muslim minister or you want to be a woman that want to give herself to God, you still need a husband if you want to make a family. That's what Islam says, because Islam is a religion of clear moral, social balance, and rationale. Islam is a religion of pure and wholesome moral principles. Yes, in Islam, alcohol, drugs, fornication, adultery, gambling, illicit sex, sodomy, child molestation, pornography, all of this is considered to be immoral and unlawful. Straightforward, Islam says. We don't dilly-dally about it. We don't have to do no voting about it. It's not a matter of individuality. 567 million abortions in Islam is considered to be murder. That's what we call it. That's what the Quran calls it. A life that you do not own, you do not have a right to take because you made a mistake. If you wanted to have free sex, you should know when you get pregnant that it's not free.